I do want to talk about what's the biggest story in basketball right now, because March Madness is going on. And obviously, we're all NBA guys here, so we'll take an NBA angle on it because the biggest story within the biggest story is Cooper Flagg, who is emerging as one of the most hyped up prospects in recent memory. Kenny, I want to start with you on this. How many players in the NBA would you value as an asset over the rights to take Cooper Flagg? Like, if you just were given the opportunity to build a team, how many guys do you want over Cooper Flagg?
So I do want to say this to your audience. I'm not a huge college basketball guy. I think I watched more college basketball this year than the previous 27 years of my life combined. So I was locked in a little bit more. But as far as Cooper Flagg start to finish full games, I watched 2 this year. Their blowout game against the Illinois Fighting Illini, which was the biggest loss in Illinois history, and then the first UNC game. So I have those 2 frame of reference. And, of course, every single video that you see people put together is the ones that you trust. And it's not many. It's not many. I think that from what I've seen so far, him as a defender is just one of those things that I love me some defense. I mean, I'm a guy that has gone to war on my pod for Rudy Gobert's drop coverage and his protection of the rim. And I have not found that player outside of like Kawhi Leonard from the wing position in a very long time. And I'm not saying that he's Kawhi Leonard defensively because, again, Kawhi Leonard was basically like a 1-on-1 in his prime. Yeah. But I think that what I've seen from Cooper Flagg, I'm convinced that regardless on whether the shooting that he's done over the last couple months is real or regardless of what type of talent he ends up being in the NBA, the defense in itself is enough for me to say, damn it, it's not many people that I value more than having the first overall pick this year. What is the actual number? I don't really know. But, like, if we look at your previous list, it's definitely some people on this list that I'm like, I would rather have the first overall pick than to have this guy on my team right now.
Yeah.
I agree. I do have some names if y'all want to run through it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So I'm going to take Jokic, and I do think there's a balance to be struck here between the old and the young guys. Yeah. So,
that's why I would say view it from the perspective of building a team.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would take Giannis still right now with what he brings you. I would take SGA. I would take Luka. I would take Tatum. I would take Ant. I would take Wemby.
Yep.
I think I would still take Zion. And that one's tough just because of availability.
Nah, I can't get there.
He's in shape, man. I want to buy in, dude. I want to buy in.
You were just telling us about Kawhi and how you can't ever buy into that.
But Zion's young. Kawhi's like this, man. Kawhi's not getting better. Like,
I'm sorry, man. I cannot value Zion as an asset over Cooper Flagg. Yeah. Like, those are major red flags.
He's a part of the last 2. The other locks that I have are Mobley, Chet. I think Amen Thompson is a lock for me over Cooper right now.
Whoa. This is what I'm saying. Like, I've been the biggest Amen dude, and then Logan comes in. He takes it a step further.
You're right. You're right. Amen's nice. And then, so the 2 dudes that those are locks for me. The 2 dudes that I'm on the fence about, I think I would take Cade. That one's really close. And I think I would take Zion. But those are the Amen, Cade, and Zion are the ones that I was really, really debating on. But, I mean, a rock-solid defensive prospect. I think you're getting a guy that my comp for Flagg was always Tatum, and it wasn't necessarily, like, offensively solely. It was just more in the sense of how many different ways Tatum impacts the game, right? He's a great rebounder. He's a great defender. He can be a good playmaker. He can, in nights when he's really on, he's an elite scorer and shooter of the basketball. And, like, I obviously think offensively is going to determine what his ceiling is, but like you said, Kenny, like I think he is so advanced defensively right now that I'll take it. Even if he's like a connective wing at his best, where like he's an all-star connective wing and not maybe necessarily a superstar, I still think that's a really valuable asset. But I do think he's going to get there. I think he'll be a top 10 player in the league one day. I'm that high on him. But so you guys aren't taking Zion. You guys aren't with me.
I don't think so. And again, I think all 3 of us are big Zion guys.
I got it.
Yeah, the injuries are the thing that really puts. I mean, if we were talking, if Zion was playing at this level right now, but he didn't have 4 years of basically missing at least half the season, we would have that conversation. But based on the track record, I can't get there.
I agree.
And also, the Pelicans might end up having both either way. So
true, very true. They might not have to choose.
Yeah.
So have a similar predicament with Chet, who obviously is not nearly Zion level of injury concerns, but there is a level of injury concern there. I'm a huge Chet guy. I think he's going to be maybe a top 5 player, definitely a top 10 player in this league. Just like such a unicorn talent as a two-way guy, dominant defensive player, and then so many things that I love offensively as a shooter, improving as a driver, good passer, really high scoring ceiling there. But like, I do have some concerns, obviously missing his full rookie year, what would have been his rookie year, and then with the pelvic injury this year, just like with his build, like I can't ignore that. I think you're underselling Flagg, Logan. Like I love Amen. I've made that very clear on this podcast. Cooper Flagg is in a different tier.
I mean, I think
as a
Amen's
talent to me.
I think Amen might be the greatest athlete I've ever watched. Like next to LeBron. Like,
he's up there. Flagg is damn near a generational prospect, though, man. Like, we are talking about a guy who I struggle to even come up with comparisons for because he's such a unique talent. But offensively, this is a guy who is an extremely good decision maker out of pick and roll, who is very effective as a driver and a finisher, who gets to the line at an elite rate, who in isolation has shown a level of difficult shot making that I think is a level up from what he had in high school. His overall shooting, you mentioned Kenny, has been impressive, like more impressive than I thought it was in high school. And so he has a really valuable off-ball skill set offensively too with that shooting. And then he's an elite cutter. He's such a smart off-ball player. He's got such great feel. Like, he's going to give you Grant Hill sort of offensive production. Like, this is where I feel like I almost have to come up with multiple comps for him at once, where you're talking about a guy who can be that point forward for you, who can be a high-level playmaker, who can be a high-level scorer, maybe not an insane one. And it's not a one-to-one comp. Like, I think Grant Hill would be a little bit quicker in terms of his first step. I think that Flagg is definitely a better shooter, significantly, than Grant Hill was coming into the league, and then he developed that later on in his career. And I think that Flagg is a better off-ball player too. And then defensively, you're talking about like an AK-47. You're talking about a guy who is not just a really high-level perimeter defender, but one of the best rim-protecting wings we've seen in a long time. I think that Flagg is a monster interior defender and a really good rebounder. So it's just like a guy who's going to fill up the stat sheet on both sides of the ball night after night. He's going to do so efficiently. He's going to do it on ball, off ball, on the perimeter defensively, on the interior defensively. Just makes any situation better, complements any type of player. And like, I don't think he'll necessarily be the number one scorer on a title team, although I think he could. I do expect him to give you north of 20 points per game. But if you are giving me that, and then you're also giving me elite value in all these different ways, like, that's the dream. Basically, for me, that's such a winning basketball player. I'm very confident he'll be a top 10 guy, which like is kind of crazy to say about a prospect, but some dudes are just that great as prospects. So my list would be even shorter than yours, Logan. I'm definitely taking him over Amen. I'm taking him over Cade. Chet, I think they are equal as prospects. I was super high on Chet. I thought he was the best guy in that class. And I think Flagg is just as good as a prospect, and he just turned 18, and I don't have any injury concerns, so I might take him.
Yeah, I think I would still keep Chet over Flagg as an asset personally. And everything you said, I agree with. Like, from the people that I trust that do the college basketball thing, AK-47 defensively is a comp that I've heard a few different times, and it makes sense when you watch him play. And we talk about a guy that just turned 18. Like, he's going to be the youngest, one of the youngest at least in the entire class. And by all accounts, he has the drive and the competitiveness to never really get complacent. I guess I think I do struggle with, based on the amount of tape that I've watched, again, which is just basically 2 real full games, figuring out if he'll ever be able to be like the go-to offensive guy on a championship team. But if that is the question we're having for a prospect, and this prospect is damn near perfect, right? Yeah. Could he be number one on the championship team? There's only a few guys in the world that can do that. We know what he'll be able to do defensively as a in space, as a help defender, and as a rim protector, as a wing. So I love him so much as a prospect, and that's why I get increasingly more pissed when the Bulls win a basketball game.
I think specifically, Carson, what you were talking about too is the biggest selling point for me on Cooper is that malleability no matter what situation he goes to. Say hypothetically, which I think I'm rooting for this. I know a lot of basketball fans would be mad. I kind of want him to go to San Antonio because I think immediately with Fox Wemby and having him as like the third guy, that could be a immediate juggernaut in the Western Conference. Like, I mean, they fill out that bench real quick in one offseason and boom, the Spurs are there. But it really is that if he goes to a winning situation right now, say say the 76ers hit the lottery, right, and they get the number 1 pick, and he had to go win games immediately. Well, I don't like that for Cooper because I don't really think the future's that bright in Philly, but he can contribute to a winning team immediately. Or if you went to a situation like Brooklyn where they are one of the only teams in the league without a real star, he could be the guy that makes you go and watch Brooklyn Nets games, and you could watch him grow as he builds out his offensive game. I also like, I agree with everything you guys have mentioned too. I also like his footwork when he gets the ball on offense too. Like he's
got a bag.
He's got a bag, but it like out of triple threat too. The way he sets guys up, like there's some guys that just start like dribbling without a plan and they just kind of see what happens. Like everything with Cooper feels so deliberate and thought out and methodical and cerebral, and that's one of my favorite aspects of him. We were talking about this the other day, and I don't know if he's a top 5 prospect since 2000, but he's one of the prospects that I'm most confident in being a great NBA player. Like, I felt that way about Wemby, and like Wemby's a one of one. I think he's the greatest prospect ever. But like, I get that kind of confidence that when Cooper's going to be here, that he's going to be a stud from day one.
Yeah.
What year did you mention? From which year?
2000.
Like since 2000. It is
okay.
tough.
So you have LeBron,
AD.
obviously.
Yeah,
you have
Wemby.
AD's got to be in that top 5. You have, honestly, both Odin and KD in 2007, just purely as prospects. Yeah. Strong cases to be on this list. Ben Simmons was really highly regarded as a prospect. I probably have Flagg over him.
Our friend Z was highly regarded in the same type of thing. I mean,
100%.
I was watching college basketball for Zion exclusively, and I was not alone in that. So I think, Z was in that conversation as well. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very much in the conversation, Flagg. Like, whether he's exactly the 4th or the 5th or the 6th best prospect since 2000, like, he's an upper echelon number 1 pick. He's a strong number 1 pick. And personally, in the time that I've really been evaluating prospects, which is basically the 2020s, like, I think Wemby is obviously number 1. Then for me personally, in my evaluations, I would have Flagg and Chet right there, basically tied for my number 2 spot, and then I would have Mobley as the next guy. Winners, man. I mean, if you can impact the game in a bunch of different ways, I'm going to want you no matter what on my team. And like you're talking about the conversations we're already having about him, Kenny, can he be the number 1 on a title team? Like, I feel confident, and maybe this is crazy to say about a prospect, but he's that good and his skill set is that translatable that even if he's not the number 1 scorer, like, he could be the best guy on a title team if you put him in the right situation. Like, kind of think about the run that Tatum had last year. And to be fair, that's on a super talented team. But Tatum was off as a scorer. He was off as a pull-up shooter. He was still the best player on a title team because of his defensive versatility, because of his playmaking impact, his rebounding. Like, that's what I think you get from Flagg when he's off as a scorer. And I do think he's going to be really, really good there as well.